Alright, hey guys, what's up? So, right now I'm going to be doing an Assassination Rogue Pvp guide for the War Within. So, okay, let's get into it. So, the first three abilities is you should already have Shiv, and then Blind, and of course Cloak of Shadows. So we're going to start off by going into Evasion, because this is one of your main survivability abilities, and then you're going to want to go into Gouge, because this is a very crucial crowd control ability for rogues, and then Shadow Step, because this is going to be one of your main mobility abilities. And then we're going to go into Cheat Death. So basically what Cheat Death does is, if you are about to die, it will just take your health to a certain percentage and you'll still be able to live, like vanish, and then use the Crimson Vial. Next we're going to go into Blackjack, because this will reduce the damage and healing for 6 seconds after Blind or Sap's effect on them ends. And then Master Poisoner, because this increases the non-damaging effects of your weapon's poisons by 20%. Then Nimble Fingers, this will reduce the energy cost of Feint and Crimson Vial by 10. Then next is Improve Sprint. This reduces the cooldown of Sprint by 60 seconds, so that's a must. And then next is Improved Wound Poison, because Wound Poison can stack 2 times. Then next is Superior Mixture. Crippling Poison reduces movement speed by an additional 10%. So one of the poisons you're always going to have is Crippling Poison, because that will slow your enemy, and this is why you have to go into this talent. Next is Fleet-Footed. This increases movement speed by 15%. And then Unbreakable Stride reduces the duration of movement slowing effects by 30%. And then Featherfoot. Sprint increases movement speed by an additional 30%. So this is another good mobility talent you can go into here, because that's a 30% increased movement speed to sprint. And then next is Graceful Guile. This will give Feint 1 additional charge. Next talent is Deadened Nerves. Physical damage taken reduced by 5%, so you're really going to need this because sometimes rogues are squishy. And then Deadly Precision increases the critical strike chance of your attacks that generate combo points by 5%. Acrobatic Strikes. Auto attacks increase auto attack damage and movement speed by 1.0% for 3 seconds, and this stacks to 10 times. Next is Tight Spender. Energy cost of finishing moves are reduced by 6%. And then Soothing Darkness. You are healed 15% of your maximum health over 6 seconds after gaining Vanish or Shadow Dance. So that's really good for healing you. And then Alacrity. Your finishing moves have a 10% chance per combo point to grant 1% haste for 15 seconds. So that's really good, because the more haste that a rogue has, the faster their energy regenerates. So it's just the same thing with Feral Druids. The more haste rogues and Feral Druids have, the faster their energy regenerates. And then next is Leeching Poison, because this is going to slightly help heal you as you deal damage. Next is you're going to go into 2 Vigors, because this increases your maximum energy by 100 and energy regeneration by 10%. So that energy regeneration will stack with whatever haste you have. Next is Subterfuge. Abilities and combat benefits requiring stealth remain active for 6 seconds after stealth breaks. And next is Without a Trace. This will give Vanish 1 additional charge, and this will be really great for survivability. Okay, next is the Assassination tree. Okay, so next in the Assassination tree, you're automatically going to have Deadly Poison. And then next is Path of Blood. This increases your maximum energy by 100. And then Venomous Wounds, because your Garrote and Rupture will regenerate energy for the damage it's dealing to the target. And then next is Improved Shiv. Shiv now also increases your nature damage done against the target by 30%. Next is Rapid Injection. Envenom deals 10% increased damage while your Envenom buff is active. Next is Internal Bleeding, because your Kidney Shot and Rupture also apply internal bleeding, dealing up to 84,000 bleeding damage over 6 seconds. Next is Deathmark. This is going to be your burst ability, and I will explain why later in the rotation. You're really going to need this. And then Seal Fate. Next is Throne Precision. Fan of Knives has 10% increased critical strike chance, and its critical strikes always apply your weapon's poisons. Next is Lightweight Shiv. Shiv deals 100% increased damage and has 1 additional charge. And then Crimson Tempest, because this is going to go along with the rest of your bleed and poison dot rotation. And then Sanguine Stratagem, because this will give you 1 additional combo point. And then Lethal Dose. Go into this. Next is Iron Wire. Now, why this? Because this is very useful against casters. And why is because Garrote silences the target for 6 seconds when used from stealth. Next is Doomblade, because Mutilate deals an additional 20% bleed damage over 8 seconds. And then Serrated Bone Spikes. This is going to be another one of your dot abilities, but the thing is, before this used to be a Covenant spell back in Shadowlands, but now they made it a passive ability for Assassination Rogues. Okay, so moving on. Next is Scent of Blood. Each enemy afflicted by your Rupture increases your agility by 4%, up to a maximum of 20%. So basically, let's say you have 3 or 4 targets. You put Rupture applied to all of those targets, right? Now, that will increase your agility, which can also really do a lot of damage if you have a pretty good burst macro setup. Okay, so next is Systematic Failure. Garrote increases the damage of Ambush and Mutilate on the target by 20%. Tiny Toxic Blade. Shiv deals 200% increased damage and no longer costs energy. Then next is Zodic Receipt. Your poisons and bleeds deal 30% increased damage to targets below 35%. And then last down the line is Arterial Precision. Shiv strikes 4 additional nearby enemies and increases your bleed damage done to affected targets by 30%. And then next is Kingsbane. Now, some guides out there don't have it going into Kingsbane. But this guide that I'm doing, it's more of a cleave build than a single target build. And why a cleave build is because Crimson Tempest is in it. That's a really good bleed ability that adds more to your DPS. So next is Indiscriminate Carnage. Garrote and Rupture apply to 2 additional nearby enemies. So if you're applying Garrote or Rupture to a target and they have 2 or 3 enemies nearby, this will apply to them also, so you don't have to reapply it to another target. Next is Sudden Demise. Bleed damage increased by 10%. Targets below 35% health instantly bleed out and take fatal damage. When the remaining bleed damage you would deal to them exceeds 150% of their remaining health. Okay, so next is the PvP talents. You're going to want to go into Veil of Midnight because Cloak of Shadows now also removes harmful physical effects. Now, if you don't get this, okay, Cloak of Shadows will only remove magical effects. Now, getting this, it removes the physical effects. So, once you use Cloak of Shadows, those are both gone. Now, me personally, I like to go into Death from Above just so I have another ability to press for Assassination Rogues, but for PvP, Dismantle would be a very good choice to go into. And then another for the last is Smoke Bomb. Now Smoke Bomb will act as a pillar and enemies will not be able to target you in or out of the smoke bomb. They would have to literally go inside the smoke bomb to attack you. Now, okay, next is the hero talent tree. Alright, for the Deathstalker talent tree, now you're going to automatically start off with Deathstalker's March. Next is Hunt Them Down. Auto attacks against marked targets deal an additional 14,000 plague damage. Next is Clear the Witness. Your next Fan of Knives after applying Deathstalker's Mark deal an additional 56,000 plague damage and generates 1 additional combo point. Next is Singular Focus. Damage dealt to targets other than your marked targets deal 5% damage to your marked target. Next is Corrupt the Blood. Rupture deals an additional 1,400 plague damage each time it deals damage, stacking up to 10 times. Now next is Fatal Intent. Your damaging abilities against enemies above 20% health have a very high chance to apply Fatal Intent. When an enemy falls below 20% health, Fatal Intent inflicts 11,000 plague damage per stack. And then Lingering Darkness. After Deathmark expires, you gain 30 seconds of increased 30% nature damage. Next is Shadewalker. Each time you consume a stack of Deathstalker's Mark, reduce the cooldown of Shadow Step by 3 seconds. And then Momentum of Despair. Next is Bait and Switch. Evasion reduces magical damage taken by 20%. Cloak of Shadows reduces physical damage taken by 20%. So this is a very good survivability talent to go into. And it's passive, so pretty much it helps. And then Darkest Night is the last talent you're going to get. Okay, so next I am going to go into the stats for Assassination Rogue and what you should choose, what you could choose, and you can decide for yourself from there. Alright, so next for the stats is, of course, your first main stat is going to be versatility, because every PvP gear that you get is of course going to have versatility with it. So now the next stat, and I would say this stat is the most important for assassination rogues, because it increases the damage done by your poisons and bleeds by a certain percentage by how much mastery you have. Now I have 14% mastery, so my poisons and bleeds deal 13.6% more. But honestly, I've always been a haste kind of guy, and first, versatility, second, mastery. But for me, my second is haste, and I made mastery third. Why is that? Is because haste increases the energy regeneration of Pharaoh Druids and Rogues. That's why I went into majority haste for my gear, and then the rest mastery and all that, because you regenerate energy faster, and I really don't want to be stuck looking at my abilities that aren't lighted and I'm not able to use them and all that. So pretty much. Okay, so next is going to be the rotation. Alright, so I'm going to start off the rotation. So you stealth, go to your target, cheap shot, garrote, ambush, ambush, rupture, mutilate, mutilate, Crimson Tempest, apply this burst macro with a Deathmark that I'm going to show later, mutilate, envenom, Kingsbane, mutilate, mutilate, envenom, shiv, then reapply your bleeds and poisons. So mutilate, mutilate, rupture, garrote, mutilate, Crimson Tempest, and then shiv. Mutilate, mutilate, death from above, mutilate, kidney shot, and then reapply your rupture, garrote, Crimson Tempest. Make sure your bleeds are all applied, and then shiv, envenom, and pretty much that's just it. So I'm going to go into the defensive abilities for Assassination Rogue. Okay, so first of your defensive abilities is Cloak of Shadows. Now, Cloak of Shadows removes all magic, and it removes all physical damage that is being done to you. So basically, what you do first in PvP is, if you're getting pressured, you use Cloak of Shadows, and then you vanish. And that's how you get away from getting pressured. Okay, next is Evasion. Evasion increases your dodge chance by 100%. Now, this will stop some damaging abilities, some casting abilities, some physical abilities, but some AoEs will still kind of hit you. And if you get into a stun or a certain CC, they will be able to hit you because you're stunned or CC'd. Now, that's just a downside to Evasion. And then next, you have Vanish. Now, Vanish is one of your main defensive abilities because this gets you out of those situations that you're being targeted in. And pretty much, you can do like a smoke bomb into a Vanish, or a Cloak of Shadows into a Vanish. There's a lot of different scenarios you could use with Vanish, Smoke Bomb, and Cloak of Shadows. Okay, so next is Feint. Now, Feint reduces the damage you take from area of effect attacks by 40%, but there is a talent that also reduces damage by a certain amount for a few seconds if you have the talent for Feint. Okay, so next I'm going to go into the macros that I use for Assassination Rogue. Alright, so here are the macros that I use, and I will put them in the description at the bottom of the video. Okay, so first is the Crimson Vial macro. Now first is /cast Crimson Vial, and then next is /use Third Wind Potion. Now there are new healing potions in the War Within that you can also use instead of the Third Wind Potion. But why the Third Wind Potion is because now in Battlegrounds this restores 50% of your health instantly, and then Crimson Vial restores 20% of your health over 4 seconds. So basically that's 70% health restored. You are almost topped off in health, and that's a really huge lifesaver when like you got to Cloak of Shadows and then Vanish. Okay, so next macro is my Evasion macro. Now this is /cast Evasion and then /use Potion of Defiance. Now with Evasion, it increases your dodge chance by 100%. But keep in mind, if you're getting stunned or CC'd, they can hit you because temporarily you're stunned or temporarily you're under crowd control. And having Potion of Defiance while Evasion is active will help reduce all damage taken by 20%. And then next is my burst macro. Okay, now this is what I used earlier in the rotation that I was doing. So I'm going to show this real quick in a very fast PvP clip in a battleground of what the burst macro can do, so you guys can see and get a visual for yourselves. Okay, so first is /use Forged Aspirant's Badge of Ferocity. Next is /use Tempered Potion. Now this is a new potion that just came out in the War Within, but still I like to use Saltwater Potion. So you can either use /use Saltwater Potion, and then why we're going to put those three first is so when you apply Deathmark. Your bleeds and your poisons are duplicated, right? So that will increase the damage over time that your bleeds and poisons will do. So that is why you use your PvP trinket first and then the potions. So it adds an extra damage to all of the duplicated bleeds and poisons. Okay, so next I'm going to show what my burst macro can do. Alright, so here it is. Okay, so for the enchants, for your cloak, you're going to go into Chant of Burrowing Rapidity, because this gives you 250 speed. Next is Chess, Crystalline Radiance. It increases your primary stat by 745. Next for Bracers is Chant of Armored Speed. This will grant 1000 speed to your overall speed. Next is Stormbound Armor Kit. This will give 930 agility to your leggings. Next is Boots. Enchant Boots, Scout's March. This will increase your speed by 250 applied to your overall speed. Next for both rings is Radiant Mastery. This will increase mastery by 315. And remember, mastery increases your poisons and bleed damage. Okay, so next is Stonebound Artistry. Now, this will give your weapon 3900 mastery for 12 seconds, and this is for both main and offhand weapons. So why mastery again is it increases your bleeds and poison damage done. So the more mastery you have, the more dot damage that you do. Okay, so next is the consumables for PvP. Okay, so for the new consumable buffs that you can use for PvP, first would be Flask of Alchemical Chaos, because this increases 2 random secondary stats. And then next will be Tempered Potion. Now this grants the effects of all inactive tempered flasks for 30 seconds, increasing your stats. Now next is Iron Claw Whetstone. Now this increases your bladed weapon's attack power by 469. And then next is Feast of the Divine Day. Now this gives your primary stat 446, and then let's see here. Next would be the Crystallized Augment rune, but I'm trying to, oh there it is, found it. Crystallized Augment rune, it increases your primary stat by 87, and well, pretty much that's just it for all of the consumables you could use that are new in the War Within, but just keep in mind, even the enchants, the consumables, they are all very overpriced right now, and I would expect the prices to go down within the next month or two. So the prices will be different in different servers. So pretty much. And yeah, that's it for consumables. Okay, well, alright guys, thanks for watching. And I really do hope that my Assassination Rogue PvP guide for the War Within was very helpful to all of you rogues out there. And, well, alright, have a good one. Later.